Well, 73 degrees with showers. Not exactly Christmas here in Texas or even winter, but it does give us an unusual pattern to look at. Stratocumulus spreading north from the Gulf, and let me bring that up here on our satellite imagery, and there it is. We can also see a little bit of I guess you can call it a little bit of a subtropical feed of moisture coming up from the southwest. And then well out to the west in Arizona and Utah, there's a big Pacific system coming our way. And they've had some pretty good showers out there over the past day or so. You can see that on the radar imagery here. Earlier in the day, that was moving through the Phoenix area, and we had some pretty impressive temperature contrasts. It was 65 in Tucson and only about 45 in Phoenix, and they had winds gusting up to 40 miles an hour. And that band has kind of moved eastward through the state. And we can see that on the surface map. There it is right there. We've got pretty much mid-40s through the Phoenix and Tucson area, coming around to the southwest. But further east in the state, you can see those gusty winds. So the front is showing up pretty well, almost to the New Mexico border right there. Very good example of a strong cold front moving through the southern Rockies. And then ahead of that, we've got this sort of subtropical air over New Mexico. Okay, elsewhere around the country, we can take a look at the mesoscale analysis from SPC. That's another look at the conditions. And this has the isobars and the wind plot. And you can see the main baroclinic low right there in Utah. And from there, you can kind of follow the cold front southward. So there it is right there. Heading out towards Texas. And behind that, cold air advection spreading into Arizona. And let's see if there's one other chart we can look at. I know we haven't gone through a lot of these SPC mesoanalysis charts, and there's a bunch of them. And I can see maybe on some sort of workshop we could go through all of these products and explain them all. One thing that we can look at is the most unstable CAPE. That's a measure of the level in the atmosphere that has the best theta E values, where we can get the strongest parcel lift. And we can see that's concentrated in southwest Arizona, up to about 500 joules per kilogram, and a very thin sliver through here of 100. So this is just barely supporting this area of showers, not thunderstorms, in eastern Arizona there. Anywhere elsewhere around the nation, let's see what's going on. In Texas right there, we can see the tropical flow making it up from the Gulf of Mexico. Lots of 70s, and it feels pretty muggy out there. Warm front kind of along this line right here, along the Red River, from about Shreveport up to Amarillo. North of that, a lot of 40s, 50s, and you can see a lot of fog up there, as we would expect north of your classic warm front. Further out in the eastern U.S., There's kind of a weak boundary in the southern states around Atlanta. North of that, the same situation, kind of a drizzly, foggy pattern. And then out west, of course, very active out there with that main system making its way eastward. And north winds in California and Nevada. And let's take a quick look at the upper air pattern. We haven't really done that in a while. This is the hemispheric wind analysis. And there it is, right there over the eastern U.S., or the western U.S. You can see that deep trough. We expect to find the surface system between the base of the trough and the downstream ridge. So what's halfway between those two along the jet? It's going to be that spot right there, and that's exactly where we find the surface system. So everything kind of matches up there. So cold front kind of like that, warm front extending into the plains. And as you might guess, there's probably other systems lining up to move on to the coast over the next day or two. And that'll kind of be a factor later in the week. And elsewhere, we've got a large long wave trough out in Japan, maybe a little bit of a long wave trough here in the western U.S., and there's a very strong tendency for ridging around Alaska and the eastern Pacific. So right here, if I run this loop forward through the week, you can see that ridge there trying to hang on in this region. So we run that forward. We're building a ridge again. See that very strong tendency for a ridge to develop here. And there's also a blocking pattern here. You can see kind of like troughing south of that ridge. There's a cutoff high right here around Alaska and kind of a cutoff low south of that. There's a good example right there. There's the low, there's the high. That's what we call a Rex block. So we got kind of a blocking pattern there in Alaska, and when we have a ridge, when we have a block pattern with a ridge over Alaska, that's going to give us kind of a northwesterly component across western Canada. And of course that means cooler than normal weather. So it looks like we're probably going to still be below average on temperatures in the northern U.S. over the next week or two, and it's kind of up in the air for the southern U.S. Okay, and I think we're about ready to head into the forecast. Let me get the charts all lined up here. I forgot we should take a look at the North Pole weather, because things are a little bit weird up there. I don't know if you followed any of the news, but they've got a bit of a heat wave, and we've talked about that the past couple nights. Temperatures around 11 to 15, which is well above average. But it's quite a bit cooler than what we had a few days ago. And as we talked about yesterday, that's being caused by a flow of warm air coming from the Gulf Stream waters between Svalbard and Iceland. The distance between the North Pole and open water is really not that far, so if you get the winds in the right position, that will bring some of that warm advection northward into that area. But further to the south, you can see very cold temperatures, minus 24 at Eureka, and that's a bad plot right there, and minus 23 at Thule, Greenland. So it's not all that unusual, and plus in Russia, they're in the icebox too, and we've got a minus 63 reading right there. Minus 63 to minus 45. Yeah, it's pretty cold there. So let's bring it back to us. And let's see, there's the GFS. And before I start that, see, we got some people in chat, and looks like most of our usual people here. And good to see you, and Merry Christmas to y'all. Hope you were having a good one this evening. Grant asked about the severe setup for Kansas. Doesn't really look all that good, and I'll show you why in a second. So here we go. Moving forward, you can see that cold front in eastern Arizona. And then during the overnight pattern, or during the overnight hours, we're going to see that front push out into Texas and western Kansas. Then for tomorrow night, around the time we do the webcast, that cold front will be moving up towards Minnesota and Iowa. So our cold front's going to look something like that, with the warm front way up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And you can see that the the model is breaking out a few showers there around Kansas City down to Chanute and Tulsa. The main issue that we're having is very limited instability. And there's the instability plot there. I've only got surface-based CAPE from this model, but since we're in the warm sector, that is probably going to be useful. So around 21Z, you can see it's around Wichita up to Emporia, but the values are only on the order of 500 to 700 joules per kilogram. By 0Z, still around 500, and then 3Z coming through the Kansas City area. We're still down at about 500, so this is not great instability. You might be able to squeak out maybe an isolated severe storm out of that, but for that I would look at the storm relative helicity. So let me bring that up real quick. Storm relative helicity values for tomorrow during the afternoon over Kansas, looking like that. So yeah, we've got a little bit of that going on. Values ranging from about 200 down here up to 400 to 500 up in Iowa. So that probably would be a little bit of concern. But the main problem is the stronger instability as well to the south, the better helicity up to the north. But yeah, with these higher values, I guess we could squeak out maybe one or two cells that may have some rotation going on. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. If there's any severe weather going on tomorrow, then we'll run GR level 2 and use that opportunity to kind of learn a little bit about radar. Okay, so back to the charts. Let's see here. GFS. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, for the rest of the day, we're going to see that system push up into Minnesota and North Dakota. So there we go, a little bit of that blizzard condition from Bismarck up to Grand Forks. And then I'll quickly move north into Ontario. And then by our webcast on Monday, kind of a stationary front from Ohio down to Arkansas and Dallas. A few showers along that. And then that gradually pushes southward on Tuesday into Alabama and East Texas. We've got the lee side trough developing again near Colorado. And the next big development will be this push of cold air right here. Got a little bit of high pressure building in the North Plains, and that'll drive the front southward on Thursday and Friday. Then later on Friday, we get a little wave coming through Texas, looks like, a little bit of isentropic lift developing. And then the next big system coming in from Canada. So right there. And some from the Pacific too. So this is on New Year's Eve here. Large area of cold air advection here as the next system moves southeastward. Then by the 2nd, looks like we get the Pacific system developing, and that'll move through the Midwest on the 2nd and 3rd. And then around the 3rd or 4th, the GFS brings in a very strong push of cold air into the Central Plains. And that's when we're looking for a possibility of maybe some winter weather. But again, you know, this could be just the model with its cold bias here. The GFS is kind of known for that. But for now, it's going for mixed precipitation along the Red River in Oklahoma and then snow there in Kansas. So this is 312 hours out. We'll be looking for that to possibly change as we get closer to that date. And let's see, that's probably about all I got here. And I do have a little bit of a surprise. Let me give this to you real quick. I figure I might as well give you a gift here. So if there's any books or anything you want, there's a coupon code for you for 50% off, and that's everything except Ray App. So you can use that from now through New Year's Eve. And that'll apply, of course, to Digital Atmosphere or even Argon if you want to get that too. So that'll be a chance for you to get that stuff cheap. And I think that's about all I got. So I appreciate y'all watching. I'm gonna go hang out with the family here, and we're gonna go ahead and do the webcast at the usual time tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And hopefully we'll see you then. If there's any severe weather, like I said, we will cover that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Merry Christmas.
Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. Over the fields.